The primary purpose of Innovative AAC Solutions, the podcast, is to educate and inform. The views expressed during all episodes are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute educational or medical advice. They are not necessarily the views of Special School District of St. Louis County. Welcome back to Innovative AAC Solutions. I'm Laura Hayes. I'm here with Cheryl Livingston. And what do we got today, Cheryl?
All right. Well, today we are going to talk about fun finds that we have to share. And I'm going to start with letting you guys know that there's, again, all kinds of resource materials, but sometimes we have to look a little bit further. So I'm going to share my screen. And what I mean by look a little bit further is I'm going to take you to the PRC website, which is printrom.com, Prinky Romic smushed together. And I'm going to go to caregiver resources, and then I'm going to go to activities. So what I want you to know, scroll down here, is there's all kinds of cool stuff here. And some of it we've kind of talked about before. We talked about the calendar, which, as you guys know, the end of the year is coming. So there's a new calendar already for 2022, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about implementation activities. So
this is not the moment where everybody goes to Target and gets their new planner, because that was like my favorite thing is, okay. We're not, okay. That was my favorite thing growing up.
I know. And it is cool. It's just, I want to show you something else.
Different kind of calendar. Got it.
I'm going to go. So what you're seeing here is for the 2020, 2021, each month, PRC and Saltillo both, but I'm just happen to be on the PRC site just to kind of streamline that information for you. Each month they had an activity to do. Well, you know how we have themes that we, talk about, and a lot of times apples come up a lot this time of the year. So their suggestion is, how about if you take an apple and you make it turn it into a volcano? Have you ever heard of such a thing?
I haven't. Instead of doing the apple pie, set a couple apples aside. Okay. Where are we going with this, Cheryl? Yeah. What does this entail?
Well, volcanoes are kind of a cool thing. The fact that something's erupting, and I've seen it. Everything from Coke bottles with what's the candy that you put in there?
Pop Rocks.
Well, that, and there's also those real round Mentos things. They would, blow it up.
Yeah, Mentos.
I see mess when I see big volcanoes. Well, I'm thinking little volcano at this point. So what they're suggesting, and we could call this a science activity because that's what it is. We put two chemicals together and something happens. But we're going to use an apple to make it happen. So what's cool is that they take vocabulary that's already on your students' devices. And I happen to click on LAMP because a lot of our students are using iPads and Accents with LAMP. I want to move my faces over here a little bit. And we are looking at vocabulary to do this apple volcano. So they're just telling you, you take an apple, you core it, take out the center part, and then you get a shallow pan. Again, that mess thing, I'm not big on messes. And you take 1 to 2 tablespoons of baking soda, and then you add the vinegar, which, the chemical reaction is what we're looking for here. But I love how it's all contained in this little apple, and we're going to see this little volcano coming up. And they're also giving you ideas of things to say when all this is going on. We've got nouns, we've got verbs, we've got adjectives, we've got interjections like awesome, and let's, and yikes. It's all on one sheet, ready to go. So I think that would be kind of fun. And I think, again, communication-wise, it's a great opportunity to talk about what you're seeing. So that's, like I said, ready to go. Print it out, share it. You've got it for your team. But then I can also go back up here, and there's even more puzzle cards. Maybe we're working on the vocabulary. We want to review that. So here's a printout. And then you cut these things apart. So you could be matching that. First, we're going to, like for the word think, we got this icon for think. And then this is what's going to come up as you hit the first icon. The second icon is this green picture for think. You could be making puzzle pieces and working on that as a kind of like side thing in anticipation for the volcano or after the volcano, whenever it's good. But they also, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go to the fact that they have been doing this, like I said, for several months. So another one that I thought was pretty cool Go back to activities, scroll. Implementation is for September. They were a little bit early for the changing of the leaves here in, Missouri, St. Louis. We didn't really get those leaves really change until just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and all they're all dumped, right?
Yeah. It's a short, small window.
But who also has some really great leaf activities is AAC for All. Like if you laminate leaves, you can laminate different size and colors and texture leaves and talk about those too. So I know that she's got some good leaf activities.
And then this goes along with making sun catchers. So yeah, same type of thing. You gather, and that's the thing with the leaf hunt, it's going finding those big ones or those different colors. And then they're talking about putting them between two pieces of contact paper and then cutting them out. So again, I just thought when I saw the leaf thing, I thought if you're going to get a leaf, now's the time, because like you said, Laura, they're drying up and they're going to get crunchy real fast. So, but again, same thing, vocabulary, things to say, and then how would we find it? So they have this for LAMP, they have this for Unity 84 sequence, one page ready to go, and you've got quite a bit of good stuff to talk about.
And again, it's all there. So it takes out the work of having to put it all together for a lesson. It's just right there, ready to go. And like you mentioned, I can't wait to see what 2022 has to offer. We just met with the ref and she said that they're working on it. So there's going to be more fun things. That's super fun.
So that was my fun find.
I don't know if I can top that. Mine's pretty simple this week. I just wanted to share my fun find, which is actually my shirt. So if you look down, my shirt says, "Everyone deserves to communicate." And it's got the signs for communicate down here in all different shapes and colors of skin tones and hues. So I think that I wanted to share it as my fun find because it was part of a fundraiser that the communication classroom on Instagram did for Lily's Voice in attempts to get supports for assistive technology. And so there's all different kinds. If you are wanting to support the AAC world, this is one way. I know that Emily Diaz has a shop where you can get some really great AAC t-shirts, and there's just a lot of them out there to try to support individuals who support AAC. So this is just one of them. So this was my fun find. I'm so excited about it. It's even my color. It's teal.
Yeah, no, you'll wear it every day, I know. But also it's the awareness. Every time you walk into Starbucks, which if you didn't know, Laura's a frequent flyer. I guess you drive through, don't you?
I pick up. I do the coffee pick up ahead.
Oh, okay. But I'm just thinking, how many people are looking at that going, So I think that's huge too, because the community being more aware will help our individuals also.
And the inclusiveness of it, like that's the piece that I really like about this shirt, is knowing that it went to a good cause and knowing that we're considering everyone and all. And there's all different ways to look at that, but I just think it's so important. So that's my fun find. Speaking of fun though, Cheryl, I know you had a lot of fun with our interviewee this week. Who did you interview?
I did. Her name is Heather Roach, and she is multifaceted. She is a mom of a little girl who uses the PODD system and has now for a few years. So they're established, but she's also an SSD teacher. She's currently not working. She's at home, homeschooling her kids, but she's got a wealth of knowledge about what it's like in our SSD world. And it was great to talk to her about how they came to know about PODD and what they've been doing to help Lenore, is the little girl's name, help Lenore be a autonomous communicator. We're not telling her what to say. She's telling us where to go. That sounds bad. She's telling us which pathways of her system she wants to talk about, and she's doing a great job.
So if I'm new and I don't know what PODD stands for, like PODD, that's not like the receptacles. Yeah. Or like, that. What is PODD again? Can you tell us?
It stands for, it's the Pragmatic Organization Dynamic Display. So it's been around for quite some time. It originated in Australia with Gail Porter. She was working with students that had complex communication needs, and she put this system together. So it has been paper-based for a long time, in the fact that you would create printout books that would let an individual, student, guide you whether by pointing or by just giving you an affirmation of, yep, that's it, as you list them off, that they want to talk about a particular pragmatic function or pragmatic, it's like a sentence starter branch, and then leading you based on which keys, which cells they choose, it leads you to other options. So it's a very robust communication system. And like I said, for years was on paper. Now there are dynamic device or electronic, I should say, versions available. Right now, Lenore has both. So we talked about both her paper and her electronic, and just how that has helped her.
Great. Let's dive into your interview with Heather.
Hi, guys. It's Cheryl Livingston with AAC Innovative Solutions, and I am joined today by a friend, but she's also a parent of a little girl who uses the PODD system. So that's the emphasis of our conversation today, is their experience and their journey with PODD. But Heather's a wealth of information about all kinds of stuff. She's a special ed teacher. And so I love the fact that she knows different ways to look at things. She's and that's the reason she's a wealth of information, is she finds out more, she explores more. So welcome, Heather. This is Heather Roach.
Hi.
And if you would tell us about you and your family, what's been going on with you guys?
Okay, so my husband Adam and I live in High Ridge, and we have Lenore, who is 6, and Ivan is 8. He's in 3rd grade, and Lenore is in 1st grade now. Mm-hmm. And I am actually homeschooling them right now because of COVID. I'm sure some people have heard of that, with her being immunocompromised. So we've been home. As Cheryl said, I was a special education teacher. I actually left SSD a few years ago just to help kind of care for Lenore and support her school, actually, because it was just a lot. And I did feel like I had more information that I could share for her. And I do have a hope of going back someday. I'd love to get back in the classroom, but for now I'm home and loving that. And Adam is a programmer, so we're all kind of home together, but doing extremely well.
That's great. And let's say, as far as you have embraced homeschooling,
yes,
very well. And in fact, I think you were just telling me you've got a little bit of a not just your children, but you've got a homeschool for other kids that are coming in.
Just a couple little girls. Mm-hmm. One of them is immunocompromised as well. So we've kind of made our own little pod, and we are all from the Northwest school district. So we can kind of stay together. And, I had experience. I picked a curriculum, and we tried virtual the first few months of COVID, but it just was kind of, the timing was hard for us to be on virtually. And with my experience, I thought this is the time to try it out. And it's been kind of wonderful. I've been able to kind of experiment with what we do with Lenore, with her pod and eye gaze, and what curriculum looks like for her. So yeah. And we love having the other little girls here. So
yeah. Well, that's cool. Like I said, that's making the best of the situation. I love the fact that you were able to do that and to reach out. So tell us about the PODD system. Tell us about Lenore. How did this all come to be for her as far as her communication system?
Oh, wow. So she was diagnosed with Rett syndrome in 2017. And at that time, obviously we went through just hundreds and hundreds of tests trying to kind of figure it out. And we just had no idea. So finally, through some genetic testing, we did get that. And actually, once we got her diagnosis, when I started researching, I found that the girls are just very communicative. She, especially through eye gaze and eye pointing, and it was like I rediscovered her. She was totally in there. The big thing is all the inputs there, but it's the output is kind of delayed. Her brain's not making the protein that kind of makes her be able to speak or use her hands. So once we got that diagnosis, I threw myself into finding a way to communicate with her, because at the end of the day, that was what mattered to me the most. And that's when I discovered PODD, and I actually hadn't heard much about it, even being in special education. So I couldn't get enough once I discovered it.
What was the connection? How did it come across? Is it a website that you saw, or how did you find PODD?
So we kind of started with, I started with PECs and, some homemade E-tram boards that we had gotten through Children's Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on a laminating tangent and started labeling everything in the house. I mean, everything, because anything that Ivan was able to have access to, Lenore was going to be able to ask for as well. So I had binders, and I had, those little 3-ring, like the little metal hoops where I'd put like core words on.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept kind of reaching out on some Facebook groups, and I was on one called AAC through Motivate, Model, Move Out of the Way,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and connected with another rec mom who actually was a special education teacher like me, and started seeing things about PODD. And I think at this time I had also heard about Linda Burkhart.
Okay.
So I kind of became a huge fan of hers, was getting everything I could read by Linda Burkhart, was like just the most amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw PODD, and the big thing for us was I wanted something that could be like an electronic version and non-electronic. So we were trialing different devices at the time. We knew eventually we'd do something with eye gaze, so I wanted to be eye gaze compatible. We're also an Apple family, so I wanted something that you could find on an iPad, but I also wanted that non-electronic version, because we do a ton of riding, swimming. Lenore does equine therapy, so horseback riding. I knew that device wasn't going to be able to go with us, so I needed something more portable. And at the time, I guess this was early 2018, PODD was really the only system that, checked all those boxes. So I ended up, getting some more information from that mom, and printed her first book in July 2018, and she was 3 years old, and I hadn't even actually gone to a formal training yet at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I love how you had the big picture in mind. You were looking to the future. You were looking at all the different avenues that you wanted to cover. So that says a lot for, again, your way of approaching things. So you guys actually went to a Linda Burkhart training, didn't you?
Oh my gosh, yes. I love Linda.
Heather's almost a groupie as far as.
Yes, you could definitely say that. Yeah. The other thing, before I kind of had reached out to Linda, another reason we kind of went for PODD is I had started researching about core words and fringe words, and was like, well, she needs all of this. Like, I'm not going to give her just core words or just fringe. Like, she needs to be able to say everything. So yeah, I had reached out to Linda. We signed up for a training. And again, at this point, I had already printed a book for Lenore. This was August 2018. So she was starting kind of her second year of preschool. And I made the mistake of, I printed out the pages and I laminated the entire thing. And I actually just weighed it yesterday. It was 4 pounds.
Oh, yes.
So that was August. We got to a training with Linda October, who said, I'm a groupie. I adore her. And Northwest actually we went to Chicago. They sent her preschool teacher and her SLP at the time to go with us. So Northwest has been wonderful with, everything with this. And at that time, that's when we started modeling her yes, no movements. And Linda, we kind of started consulting with her. So yeah, October 2018 was our first time. And yeah, it was like meeting a celebrity to me.
Yeah. No, I like it. And that's wonderful too, because I again, you appreciated what there was to gather, what there was to gain from this relationship. So I think that's great. And I feel the same way. I don't know how many times, any conference I've been to where she's presenting, I go. I've heard it all before, but I still go and I still learn more. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We went I guess the next training we did with her was in November 2018. We went to an alternative access training.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so we had been modeling the yes, no, the two separate movements, because I think when we started, she had like a smile and a giggle for a yes. And, you know, talking to Linda, that's when we fully understood, like, that's not really enough. Like she needs the two distinct. So she's got a really strong up, down, yes, no, side, or up, down, yes, and a side, no.
Yeah.
And it took about 7 months of modeling. So I guess the following May 2019 is when she really had that strong yes, no. So if you're working on those things, it can take some time, but now it's amazing to have that, especially because she scans for everything.
So, and I think what I've been thinking about too is trying to understand more about what Lenore is going through. It's her body that's causing her to have that difficulty with her letting us know her affirmatives and her declinations. It's not her not understanding. And that's what I think sometimes people dismiss it as being, well, she doesn't understand. This doesn't make sense. It's like, no, how do you guys know when she is having a day that's just not easy? It's hard.
Even as a parent, I mean, you have to be very flexible in what your expectations are, and just being very, communicating with her, like, I didn't understand your yes, or can you tell me again? And she's very patient, so she's fine if you keep asking. But she's gotten to where, if she can't get that up, down, yes, she'll lean her body forward, or she might reach forward, or there's even been times where she'll just tell me with her eyes. She'll give me the up, down with her eyes and the side to side. So again, with different service providers, I think being flexible in your thinking, because if you're only looking for the one thing and not communicating with that individual, you might be missing out on a bunch. And we also, I ended up going to a 5-day training in June 2019. I went to the 5-day advanced training with, again, Burkhart and Gail Porter. So you think I went crazy about meeting Linda. I was in the front row the whole time. And I learned so much there, because she went through a lot of the movements too, and how it can relate to her OT and her PT and controlling her body. And there's so much that we always have to be looking at the whole picture with her. So understanding how her body's moving and giving her the freedom to, this is what works for me, this is how I can communicate my yes, no. And it's been totally worth it, obviously.
No, it has. And like you mentioned before, it is a process. So if somebody's not seeing something happen immediately, that does not mean it's not working. It's the time, and it's the investment. It's I think about all the stuff you're pouring into Lenore, and she's getting that. It's just a matter of how much she can show us.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. So, we talked about her 4-pound first book, but it was heavy because it was lamination. It wasn't so much probably because I know she's grown page-wise. She's grown symbol. The number of icons on the page has grown. So you started with probably what we would consider a simple book. And where are you guys now as far as the number of cells?
So she started with, the 4-pound laminated. It was a 12 expanded function, partner assisted visual scan. So it had the operational panel on the side. In addition, because she doesn't have direct access, she can't consistently point. So we do the scanning for her. And definitely do not laminate your books. Don't get stuck in the getting them perfect and all that. Like, just get going. And then, so that was when she was 3, and she was about 5. I switched her to a 20 expanded functions, and that was still a 1-page. And now, I guess the beginning of what would have been kindergarten last year, she's now in a 2-page opening, 40 expanded keyword partner assisted visual scanning. So now, instead of just doing this column, this one, we start with, I'll say this page, and she'll give me her yes, no, this page. And then we'll scan the columns. And there's not necessarily the operational panel. It's more just that's all I have to say about that. And she'll tell me. So she actually prefers her book to some of the more electronic versions.
Okay, well, that's my segue now to you guys have had trying to say you've had an electronic eye gaze device for quite a while now too. So yeah, what's the contrast, pros and cons that you guys are seeing?
She was, I guess she was 3 at the same when we got the Toby. We had trialed different devices. I think we trialed a PRC device, a wind slate. We ended up going with the Toby just for kind of the battery. And then like the books and like the different kind of things that we tried, we had her in, what's the different communicator? Had her in compass. There's been snap. We have settled into grid. Okay. So she has the 2-page opening, 40 expanded, and then her grid is 20. So her electronic version is a little bit smaller. And then I remember in the beginning that the setup is a little bit different between the two, like where the buttons are kind of organized. And at first that really sent me for a loop. I was like, they need to match exactly. And I got so hung up on it. And I remember having a conversation with Gail when I was in Portland, like, why? And it was the access methods, because when I'm scanning for her, the things that are further to the left is what she's going to get to more quickly. So some of the location is moved around. And then on a device, because that's her, she can get to them in the same amount of time. And because PODD, the way it's beautifully designed, the pathways are always the same. So, where you start, you still get to the same place. So since we started modeling with the 12, by the time we get even, further along in her device, she already knows where each button goes. So she's recognizing them. So the difference does not matter. I probably was more affected than her just because I was stuck in my ways. I'm like, they have to look exactly, can I print this? And once I was able to let go of that, it's been much easier.
Because as far as Lenore's visual input, her ability to scan and look at something, that's a strength. She's checking things out visually at all times. So yeah, it's kind of like you were saying, it's not so much of a motor, you have to move to this, to that, to this. She sees it and she knows. So again, it's different. And then, like I said, it has changed over the years with the different platforms that it's been put on. But I love the fact that you talked about you wanted the versatility because, like you said, it's a big device. It's not something you just, whip out and set up, super easy. You guys you've got tons of stuff at home that you've made work as far as equipment goes. But like you were saying, you're out and about, you're a busy family. Prior to COVID, you were a super busy family out and about, but it's just another thing to consider. Yeah.
Yeah. And once her device is mounted on her wheelchair, I feel like I need like a wide load flag because she's a good 5 feet long. We've got to have clearance and I cannot take her Toby on Dusty. That's her horse through equine therapy.
Yeah. So again, I just love for people to think about all the factors because sometimes we have a tendency to like, this is the thing, this is it. And it's like, no, more.
Well, and the other thing, and I even kind of got stuck in this as well. I think some families, some therapists think once you get that device in front of her, everything is solved. It's this magical thing. And it is magical. It is amazing, but it's a lot of work. If you try to sit in front of it all day and communicate. So having, if she's tired or like I said, she kind of prefers her book sometimes. It's wonderful to still be able to communicate. Or if the battery dies or all the
electronic glitches,
whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
And
also,
she likes that personal connection with the book.
well, and that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, so people will say, well, this is independent communication. And it's like, well, yeah, she's physically with her eyes, she's checking that box and it's speaking. That's independently her doing it. But autonomous communication is, I think, more of the important word here. So if she's speaking for herself, she can do that both electronically with voice output, but she's also doing it with you with her pod book. And again, not just you. That's the other thing I think we want to point out too. She uses her pod book with other people, right? As far as her older brother.
I haven't picked it up. I did not have to teach him. Kids are much more pliable in how they learn things.
Yeah.
But then I think if you think about just a typical child, if you have them do an activity like on a website or something, and you just leave them there to do it, can be kind of boring sometimes, or kind of lonely, and I've found people are much more likely to talk over her if she's trying to use her device, because she's kind of looking for what she wants and then waiting for her to hit the speak button. Whereas if we're using her book, you're talking with her, you're right there.
You are her communication partner. Yes.
Yes. And she wants that connection. That's the biggest thing for us. She wants that connection with another person. We all do. So yeah, it's been wonderful to have that option.
Good. And that's, as far as I wanted to kind of go back over briefly, the different ways she does communicate. So she uses her pod book, she uses her eye gaze on her electronic device. But like I said, how else does she get things across to you? What's her?
Oh, wow. So with school, we've done, again, I was able to kind of get creative. It was kind of wonderful because she would have been starting with a new team. So I got to be creative with her curriculum and how she communicated. So I've done eBooks, and she's been able to do a bunch with Gaze Viewer on her Toby.
Good.
At the end of the day, we still do a ton of like eye pointing, and the homemade e-tram boards. And most recently, I took a whiteboard and cut out the center. So, because she's, covering her sight words now. And so instead of having, 20 different cards, we can just hold the whiteboard up, and then with the hole in the middle, I can easily see where she's looking. So yeah, a lot of the eye pointing with that. And I guess those are the biggest things.
Okay. But the whole point I was wanting to make was the fact that it's not one, like we said before, there's not just one system, and the flexibility of in the moment working with what you need is what's going to make it successful. You're like you said, you just grab what's handy and you make that work, rather than, let me go find this, or here, let me go find this. I love the fact that, like I said, you have taught Lenore to be flexible because you've been flexible with how she's interacting with you.
We use clothespins to hook it to her little homemade, poster board, e-tram board. We use her closet door as a mirror. I'll tape, things up there. And no, that's good. I like that. I like the fact that it's, like I said, it should be fluid. It should be something that's, easy to adapt. And also being
her
in
voice.
Special ed, Yes.
Yeah. She gets a lot across with her voice and her facial expressions. And so I always want people to be attentive.
She's got an interesting sense of humor too. So that always adds to the fun of it. She thinks it's kind of funny if people get frustrated, like learning her book. She's I said, she's very patient. Yeah. But she'll wait you out.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and I always love too, when we've had times together that, she likes Ivan to be in trouble. She likes, her, it's, that sibling rivalry thing is the same.
Yes.
And you guys got a new puppy dog.
In trouble. Oh yes. He's kind of ornery as well. And so she thinks that's funny. Yeah, you're right. She loves it when Ivan gets in trouble.
Yeah.
She, her and I bicker sometimes. Dad has to get involved because she just, oh man, a 6-year-old.
Well, and I was going to say, so you've got like a little teenager on your hands now. So,
For sure.
That's coming. Even more so, Mom.
Yeah, I
I'm
just
sorry.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That's, I think I remember a moment when I think I told Adam, I'm like, her and I are arguing. I mean, she's just a typical child, and I've forgotten it's not about Rett syndrome. It's about just being able to communicate and having this typical mother-daughter relationship. Yeah, we've got a lot of extra equipment, but communication has made it so it's much easier to swallow. It's more normal.
Yeah. No, and that's going to say you, and just the fact that you do, have all these various ways you're reading her, her, and that's something that she's going to take advantage of that. So as far as you talked about her equine therapy and using the horse, what does that look like as far as her and her communication? What kinds of communication opportunities does that bring? I know it's more for the physical stuff, but what do you guys do?
Yeah, that's been huge for just the upper torso control and her core control and being able to help facilitate kind of those movements and leaning forward if she needs to. But they've worked with us really incredibly. She, up on her saddle, has a couple symbols for like walk on, go, and then stop, or I have something to say. So she can eye point to those because she has two sidewalkers. And then typically I or one of the sidewalkers will be carrying her book with us.
Okay. All right.
So if she stops or she's not usually raising her hand to say she has something to say because she's trying to hold on to her reins, but she'll kind of use the eye pointing.
Okay. All right.
To say, Dusty needs to whoa, I have something to say.
Okay. Good. Oh, that's cool. I just, I just
love
that.
Take it.
Yeah. No. And again, I don't know how much there is to talk about when you're, doing your ride, but I love the fact that you've got it there. So she's able to take advantage of it. So that's cool.
Because she loves Dusty. She's been riding him since same age. I think she had just turned 3.
That little girl got busy at 3. She got all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah. Ivan had Taekwondo. And so I said, Lenore's going to have something too. And it's not going to be just therapy. It's going to be something for just her and something special and fun.
Yeah. No, that's cool. All right. So now let's go to, as far as you have in, her years of being in school, trying to merge both private clinical therapy and then school therapy and staff and stuff. Words of wisdom that you can share as far as, I think of you as being the center post and working with all these different groups. And sometimes, groups don't always see eye to eye, or they just don't see the same thing happening. Again, there's differences in one setting versus another. So what do you advise? What's your take on that?
With different expectations in different settings, it's just being open-minded and being creative. And obviously there's a lot of forms that have to be signed in the beginning, but having those open lines of communication between the different types of therapists, because yes, they do see different things. In the school setting, Lenore would be with her peers and, her peers learned how to use PODD. And then when she's in outpatient therapy, we go to specialty care center. It's more one-on-one. And so she's doing different activities, but I think just making sure that those therapists are able to share and try different things and just not getting stuck in just habits. I think different, just you do a certain thing, you think that's the end all be all, but trying to do more things. We did end up doing like a notebook that kind of went home, and the daily sheets, and I know all those things are kind of a lot. And at the end of the day, the big thing that I wanted to know was, what did she talk about today? And then I would send even just a sentence of, we did this last night, so they could talk about that in her book. I didn't want it just to be ABCs and numbers. I wanted them to have that connection from, I rode Dusty last night, or at school. I don't want to just know we worked on sight words. I want to know that a little boy wanted to help her jump on the trampoline, little things like that to help with the communication. So it wasn't just work. So yeah, communication for everyone.
For everyone. And again, it's ironic that we have to remind people, but especially those of us that are supposed to be communication, authorities or a specialist or whatever, that sometimes our communication skills need to improve. So, okay.
Yeah. And I think it can be a lot of work. So I think having those honest conversations with parents about what do you want to know? Like, because some of those daily sheets can get very involved, making sure that you don't just get overwhelmed by that, but finding out what do we need to be working on at school? What do the parents want to be happening? And just keep being flexible.
And like I said, you keep the lines of communication open. So it's not, it doesn't become somebody's not resentful of the fact that, I got to fill out this, notebook again. And it's like, and then, of course, what I hear is like, well, it's still in the backpack. They never took it out, and it's like, again, life is busy. Yeah. So I just do the part that is, and like you said, if they are asking you, what do you want? Then it seems like it's probably a little easier to jot that down versus filling like a form.
Yeah, you want a long description, a paragraph of what we studied. Because I was in middle school, and I did have some students with the notebooks, and I just being able to talk to the parent, like, what do you want to know the most, or how is this easiest for you? What's the best presentation? Maybe it didn't even need to be a notebook.
Yeah. And what would promote maybe a little carryover at home, because that's what the student is going between the two places. So that doesn't mean one stops and one starts. It's like ideally,
right. And I know some go to different homes. So there's that kind of the tricky layer. So
okay, good. Now, and to help with that communication, before COVID, I hate saying that so much.
I know.
You started, and I didn't know what to call it. It wasn't a support group. We didn't just sit around and talk about our woes. It was a group of people coming together with PODD as the center. But you provided that, and you were inviting the people from the school. You invited people from the community.
Yep.
I was going just because I wanted to hang out with you guys. But
yes, we're fun.
So that was great. That was wonderful that you did that.
Yeah, we called it. That's something I would love to get going. Because I go to the library, I take the kids, we feel pretty safe there. But obviously the meeting room is closed, and I would love to get going again on something. I know things will be easier once we can get the kids vaccinated, but we called it Gateway to Pod. It kind of started with, I was going into the preschool kind of on a regular basis and working with some of her teachers, just so we could kind of get that personal connection too, because I didn't want them to feel threatened by me, and I wanted to have an understanding of what they were doing. So it started there. And then some of my friends wanted to know how to communicate with her. So we just decided we would kind of start a group. And I guess our last year of preschool, I ended up doing a fundraiser where we raised money where I could kind of help get some more supplies to make some books for some of her peers, actually, some of her classmates. And then, so it kind of spread from there, getting parents, not just PODD necessarily, but the idea of different ways to communicate and, how you can incorporate it into daily life, because there's a lot that parents and therapists are doing. And so sometimes, communication might be the thing that falls behind. Like it might be, especially if you're dealing with any kind of medical issues,
right? The time constraints.
Which Lenore just got a feeding. Right. Yes. Lenore got a feeding tube in August, and, I was able to bring her book and her Toby. So we were able to have her book, while her and I were laying in bed. And, but I think some parents get overwhelmed. They're like, we've got schoolwork and we've got to get dinner. And, so this group, I was able to say, well, maybe just when you're cooking, just stay on the chat page and focus on some of these words. And I think we also want it to be perfect when we decide that we're going to be modeling and doing this. We want these long drawn out conversations. And that's not how, Lenore at 6 is going to be talking. So don't get caught up in perfection, but just kind of getting some modeling and making it work for your family. Mm-hmm. So I definitely miss that and working with other families. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, no, as soon
hopefully,
as soon as we can, let's yeah. Like I said, I miss you guys. So that would be fun.
I miss it. I miss sharing. I think it keeps me going and getting even more creative here too. So
yeah. Okay, well, that leads us then to what's the future hold? What are you guys, kind of thinking about next? Okay, let's make COVID go away. If there was nothing if we don't have to worry about that, what's kind of like coming on the horizon?
So I definitely love to continue doing some type of homeschooling just because I love it. And I love being able to get creative and come up with different ideas that, for when she does go back to school. Hopefully, we'll be going back she'll be in 2nd grade. And then Ivan will be in 4th. And I would love to just do more support work, work with other families. I want to get Gateway to PODD going again. And I just want to share what our story's been. It's been a lot of work, but it's worth it. It's, when someone communicates with Lenore and people look at you differently when they can see who you are, not just what your basic needs are or that certain things. I want to, continue her growing and her book and.
No, and I love it's that firsthand experience that I can't speak to. I mean, I know it from a clinical setting. I know it from a school setting, but I love the fact that you have embraced it and are willing to share. So I feel like that's wonderful that, that's a passion. Yeah.
Yes.
And who knows, maybe you'll be going to Australia and presenting with Gail Porter. I mean, that would be cool.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love making the connection with other families. There for a while, I thought maybe I'd be kind of a PODD trainer, but I found just making that connection with other parents was what I loved and supporting them in their journeys and trying to see that whole picture and not getting drugged down. That's that connection, like other RET moms and other families that use different alternative forms of communication. Those connections are what keeps you going.
No, definitely. Okay, so we're going to wrap up here and I ask you for your favorite story about, I said Lenore and AAC. So something about communication is what I'm shooting for here. So what's one of those that you're like, something that occurred that you want to share?
So my favorite has always been last fall. So obviously we were homeschooling still. So Lenore, I was doing something with Ivan, we were reading, and Lenore was watching TV with her dad. And I came in and I asked her if she wanted to work on some schoolwork with Ivan and I, or if she wanted to stay in there with dad. And she raised her hand, I have something to say. And she said, more to say, I think it's you don't like words, annoying. That's all I have to say about that. And so again, at this point, I guess she was, 5. It took her 23 scans, 23 yes, no movements to tell me, no way, Mom, I'm not doing school right now. You're annoying. Basically, leave me alone. I'm watching a movie. And if I wasn't so proud of her, I might have been, had my feelings hurt.
I think the first time you told me this story, you were kind of like, I don't know whether to be hurt or proud.
Yeah. But
no,
it's not that I I know she knows all of her letters. I know she knows all of her letter sounds. I know she knows her numbers to 100. I know she is starting word families and she knows like 25 sight words.
Yeah.
And I know she can independently use, her eye gaze. All of that doesn't make me as happy as the fact that, at the time, my 5-year-old could talk back to me. I mean, that made my mom heart know that we had gotten to a point that that's what was important to her.
Yes.
It wasn't making choices in the classroom. It was being able to tell me, Mom, get away, like, get out of here.
And she could have done it so much simpler in the fact that she could have just ignored you. She could have fussed or something, and you would have read that as, no, okay, you want to stay here. Okay. But she didn't. She used her words to be a little more specific.
Because she could have just used one of the first couple chat pages and said, finished or stop or no. She needed to make sure that I knew I was being annoying, and that was not the activity that was going to be happening then.
Yeah. So again, do not sell this child short. She is so much, to share. And again, my big point with her is that it's her body that's getting in the way. It's not her personality. It's not her. No. Because I think I can't imagine the dialogue she has had in her own mind about stuff.
Oh yeah. She's also gone through 15, 20 scans to tell me she wants more donuts. I mean, she's argued with me. She's gotten a donut and she'll take 15, 20 scans to say, I need another donut, basically I am not finished. And she's made me promise through her PODD book that tomorrow she will get more donuts. Oh, so those are the kind of things that she wants to share that motivate her. So thinking about that, when you're working with a child, maybe they just have something else to say. It might not be what you want to hear, but
right. And the fact that you stuck with it, though, I want you to get, appreciation for the fact that you didn't just say, okay, I think this is what you're telling me. You just stayed with it until she said, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah. Cause sometimes the messages you're like, where is this going? Is this, but you stay with it. And each time you do that, it gives her more confidence. We get more messages. So
no, that's good. No, she is growing as a communicator, and it's going to just keep growing. I have no doubt, because there's so much more life experience ahead of her that she's going to have more to talk about.
I know it feels like we've lived, 100 years doing this life some days, but then I'm like, she's only 6. So where is she going to be when she's 10 and 20? And her quality of life is going to be so much better. I mean,
no,
she wants to work for NASA. So it's,
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
She hasn't decided scientist or astronaut, but we definitely have been working on some of those science
Okay. Good
skills.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Heather. I appreciate you spending some time with us. And again, I feel like introducing you to our audience, which is made up of SSD staff, but it's also, there's some parents and just individuals that would definitely, I think the perspective that you're giving us is something that is priceless because we can't imagine, we can't just, assume we know what's going on. So the fact that you are such an advocate for Lenore is wonderful. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah. And if there's, parents are welcome to reach out to me.
Well, speaking of that,
homeschool and COVID, I haven't done much on Gateway to PODD, but I will.
How would you so that's what we should go to the Gateway to PODD page, right?
Yep.
Okay.
This will get me motivated. I will try to put some more stuff of, cause I've been kind of focusing on our curriculum and things at home. So I haven't put as much up, but yes, if someone reaches out to me, I will get that message still. And
so message on the page would be probably a little more personal as far as if they wanted to touch it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Cause again, I do feel like you've got so much to share, and it's also important that we keep the lines of communication open. We'll revisit that line.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you. I hope to see you in person one of these days.
Yes. Yes, hopefully. Thank you so much.
All right. You guys take care.
You too.
Check out this quick video with Heather and Lenore and see exactly how PODD works.
Okay, I have a question for you. Let's see. I'm asking a question. What would you tell people about PODD? Back to page 1. You sit back. Oh, there we go. Let's get your balance here. Okay. What would you tell people about PODD? This page? No. This page. Up. Down, yes. Okay. This column. Side, middle. No, this column. Up. Down, yes. This one. What did you tell people about PODD? Side, middle, no, this one. Up, down, yes. Help, help, help. That's all I have to say about that. No. Okay. This page. Yes. This column. Thinking. Middle. Yes. This one. Side. You didn't look very far to the side. I'm going to ask you again. Oh, it's somebody's here. Is it Miss Sarah? Yes, it is Miss Sarah. Okay. This one? Hi. Hi. She was telling me something. I was recording her. Oh, good. What? No. This one? Yes. Opinion. Help. Opinion. This page? No. I saw you looking at this page. Yes. This column? Yes. This one? No, this one. No, this one. Yes. You, yes, help you. That's all I have to say about that. Ye. I saw you look at the camera. Was that your no? Help you. That's all I have to say about that. Yes. You think PODD helps you? Oh. Yes. Yes, I do too. Let's see, I think it's unbelievable, and you are very clever. Back to 1. Oh, finished. That's all I have to say about that. Yes.
So Laura here. For this week's innovative activity, we have the House of Sounds. This is an available resource through the IRC, and it is created by Lakeshore, and it is made for phonemic awareness. So it's got, what is the middle sound? What is the beginning sound? Can you make a rhyme? What is the ending sound? But what I want to show you guys is we could definitely work on phonemic awareness with an AAC system and literacy and writing and all those components. But inside, it actually has objects. So it's got this little van. It's got a kite. How cute is that? Definitely could get thrown and not hurt anybody. A little fan. All different kinds of little objects, a little box, a sun, a little mop. So lots of miniature objects. What I think would be really cool for this house is you can direct opening the door. You can comment on what's in the house or what's on the outside of the house. You can open the top and look in the house. So we could comment on looking, but not touching. We could guess what's in the house. Someone could describe the objects in the house to someone else, and you could kind of play a 20 questions and guess what's in here. I think it's a great object for not only some of these phonemic awareness targets that they have on it, but also for just language, right? The core vocabulary I've mentioned, like look, get, put, take, out, in. All of those things can be targeted with these objects. You got a little piggy. How cute is he? We can also target phrases, right? So what's in there? It's and fill in the blank. I like that. I don't like that. That's pretty. This little beautiful rose here. That's ugly. Like, I mean, I don't think it's ugly, but it's a little squirrel. Or why? Like what, why, where, all of these questions we could ask, all of these things. So there's probably about, I don't know, 15 to 20 items in here, but you could also put in your own items. Think like Ned's head, but with magnetization, because all of these sides are magnetized. So you can put basically whatever you want in here, and you could even have them, all the different doors are different colors. So we can talk about which color door we might want to reach in and get or open. We could turn the house around so that we have to direct someone to open a specific color door. We could put different items in each of the doors. We could do some color associations with the same color door. So red items or a red bag by the red door. I really feel like the possibilities are endless. And how much fun would this be to kind of engage somebody in language, targeting all those things that we just talked about, and still having the option to change it up every time. So using what they give us, but changing it up every time. So if I'm doing a fall activity, why not? Why wouldn't we put some fall items in here? Finding some more things from the dollar spot at Target or the Dollar Tree and just kind of changing it up. So let me know, did I miss something? Is there something else you would want to do with this activity? I really feel like this would target all ages, and it's just a really great item that we could check out and have at our fingertips. So House of Sounds, a hands-on way to learning, phonemic awareness, but again, all language, and it's available at the IRC or through Lakeshore.
Hi, guys. I wanted to spend a little more time talking about how you can get more information about PODD, the Pragmatic Organization Dynamic Display system that we were talking about in our interview with Heather. It's definitely something that I want you to know more about. I want you to just think about all the different applications for it. I've used it with kids that needed physical assistance because their bodies were complex and it was hard for them to access different things. So we used the auditory input as their primary mode. But then we've also had students that were higher functioning as far as language goes, but they still needed visual supports for helping them through times that were difficult to communicate. So PODD has been successful with some of my AU students as well. So I like how diverse it is, and I like how there are so many different options of the way we can present it. So you need to know more about what it is. You need to have time to kind of think about your caseload and people that you're supporting and see, what would be a good match. So I'm going to show you some things that we offer here at SSD that you could take full advantage of. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to go to our KickUp, which is the system that we have for registering for classes. And it's going to ask me, well, what are you looking for, Cheryl? So I'm going to browse events, and I type in PODD on the search bar. But what I'm talking about is a self-paced course. So when I type in PODD, then I need to come down here and click on self-paced courses. And then I need to scroll down. So it's showing me that there's an overview of PODD, and it is available for this year till May the 2nd of 2022. And it is a Google Classroom. So I'm going to take us to the Google Classroom, and I'm going to show you, what's in there. But know that there's assignments. So when you complete those assignments, that then takes you back to getting credit for this continuing ed. And if all the assignments are completed, then you get 3 hours of continuing ed credit on your transcript. So I'm going to go to the Google Classroom. There's a link. Once you go to register, you get a screen that has a link to this classroom. So this is Allison Diaz-Klein. She's one of the OGCOM facilitators. She created and supports this class. And she's got information, all kinds of different things that you could look at. Then there's the classwork. So this is where you're going to break into individual sections and gather information and then complete some assignments. So the introduction to PODD is Google Slides that you can scroll through. And the idea of the class is that when you do have a few minutes here and there, or if you do have some PD time, you could use this as your resource for gathering information. And I also love the fact that you have this to share with other folks, your team members or parents, that you could show them real quick all this same things. So you have introduction, and then I'm going to go back. There's benefits of PODD. So again, there's slides, but then there's also an assignment. So she tells you then what the assignment is, and then you've got questions to answer. So it looks like a lot of information, which it is. We want you to know it all, but again, I don't want you to be intimidated by the fact that there's work to do, because it's meant to be a chance for you just to reflect, and that for us to know that you spent the time to do the work to get the credit. All in all, PODD is definitely one of those systems that it's diverse. Like I said, we can use it with lots of kinds of kids, but then it's also sometimes a lot to keep up with. So I want you to also know that you can go to our AAC site, which is our sites, google.com, ssd.org/AAC site. And I'm going to click on AAC systems, low tech AAC, and that takes me to this screen, which is going to give me the option of PODD. Some of the same material you might have seen in the class is also available here. And there's other folders that you can get into, handouts again that are probably a part of that class. But if you're not taking the class, you still could access this. This is two separate things. And what's also here is the printable PODD books. So in our department, we try to help, put these books together, give you that system ready to go. But because it is diverse, there's a lot of different ways that we can approach it. And I want you to have a chance to explore it. Look at the different options. Look at the different ways it's set up. If it's for a young child, if it's for an older student, how many cells are on the page at a time, if it's an individual book or is it a group book. All of this here can be explored. And then if you need our help printing, we can help you with that. But even before we get to the printing part, you could be gathering a lot of information. There's books like flip books, but then there's also books that open up in pages. So you could have a chance to look at that system as well. This is, again, always on our AAC site. Check it out, look it over. One other thing that I want to mention is sometimes you'll have a book for a student and then you want to try a different book or a book for a second student. This is a nice way for me to go, which one do they have? So I can compare. So I love how diverse it is, but also sometimes that's where I get confused on which one's which and what I should be calling it. And this will help me then to sort through that. PODD, I think of it as a beautiful way of expanding communication because we are talking about the pragmatic branches. And that's where, let's just look at one of these real quick. That's where there's so much more to say. So we've got some quick hit things that we all say throughout the day. But then when we get to the categories, and this is the 9 cells, so there's not a huge amount of things here, but just within these 9 cells, we can branch from questions to requesting something, activities, things. But then we also are commenting on things you like, things you don't like, telling somebody that there's something wrong, telling about something, sharing information, talk about going places. I want to show you something, and then I want to do something. So I think of these things as a lot of times that's where our students are most motivated, is by kind of directing us about things that they want to think about and talk about. So by following these numbers on the cells and the letters. So if I want to tell you about I don't like this, I'm looking for page 4C. So we would flip to page 4C. Here's 4A, 4B, 4C. And then it's like, well, what's wrong? It's like, well, it's not. I don't like it. It's boring. It's yucky. It's bad. It's scary. It's silly and crazy. It's just getting on my nerves. It's naughty. It's noisy in here. Or they can tell us to turn the page. And there's more things. So I like how it's getting into the reason for communication, not so much that we're worrying about the actual words that we're putting together. It's more about the connection that I have with you about the reason I'm communicating. It just expands and it goes on to all kinds of things of categories. So when we can branch off into whether we're talking about an action or whether we're talking about a place or whether we're talking about an activity. So if I am talking about actions, I go to page 10. So again, I'm scrolling through here because this is on my screen. Going past the people. And here's the actions. So we can talk about giving or doing a body movement, looking at something or watching something, saying something. It keeps going. Now here's 10B, turning, putting something in, taking something out, putting something on. It's a lot of very powerful words are going to come up here. And again, our students are directing us. They're driving this by telling us which one of these they're thinking, and then it can link us via turning a page to more. So this is what we were talking about. We were talking about the little girl, Lenore. Heather was on the interview. That's her mom, and how much she can do with her system. And this is the system she was talking about. All right. I hope that's helpful. Let us know if you have any questions. Thanks.
Cheryl, wow. I am so glad Heather has some time to sit down with you and talk through PODD.
Yeah, no, that was cool. Again, just a wealth of knowledge about, I love the fact that Heather can see things, from all different angles. And it was really nice to have a chance for her to share and to brag on how well Lenore is doing. But it's because she's got great support at home. Heather has done a wonderful job of making sure that everything is working together, and they're trying new things. They're not rigid about how they approach things, and just all the different activities and things that they're doing. It's great. They're a great family.
Well, and just speaking to the fact that you've got high tech and light tech AAC, so many times people think that it's one or the other, or you have to advance to something with a speech generating voice output. And that's not the case. There's a feature match, and there's a rhyme and a reason, as I like to say, for all different levels of support in our world. So thanks to Heather, and thanks for you for sitting down and kind of talking through some of those things. She's a great example.
Yeah, no, and there's lots of resources that we're going to include for you guys to get more information and to be learning, to be, investigating more about what it is and how it might help your students.
And I know, we've included some innovative activities and links, as we always do, but if you want more information on PODD, we do have a self-paced class that you can take, as well as some other resources out there. I know we shared one in our last episode that Angela Murad has put out there for a roundup of resources. So we always get questions about PODD and how to implement and how to use it and what it looks like. So this is just a small little tidbit, and there's more out there if you're searching for more info. So feel free to check out those resources as well. But we won't meet until after Thanksgiving. So we hope you all have a wonderful, blessed Thanksgiving. We hope that you get some rest and relaxation with your loved ones and your families. And we will check you out in December.
Sounds good.
For Innovative AAC Solutions, I'm Laura Hayes.
And I'm Cheryl Livingston.
Have a good one.
Bye.